All right, hey everybody. So there were a few, you guys mostly did great on the homework. In fact, you did do great on the exercises, I mean. There were a few things that seemed to be tripping people up a little bit, and they're, really common, simple things. So I thought I would take just a minute to go over that with you. Just so that there's no one's going off not understanding what's being asked. So question 3 was one that people got just a little bit tripped up on the use of the date function. So let's go ahead and read the questionnaire. So write a query against the rental table that returns the IDs of the customers who rented a film on July 5th, 2005. Use the rental date column, and you can use the date function, which is what we're talking about here, to ignore the time component. Include a single row for each customer ID. So let me just get into the Sequila database. So I'm just going to run this here to get us into Sequila. All right, so the first thing that we want to look at is just that I always, whenever I have a question like this, I like to look at the table first. So let's look at the table. So we'll select everything from the rental table. Okay. And so what we see here is in the rental date column, you've got the date, but you also have a timestamp here. And for what they're actually asking for, we don't need that information. And also it would just make it complicated because we're needing to find stuff that's just on this date. So we need to basically hone in on just the date part of this. And so that's what we're going to use the date function for. All right, so we're asked to actually retrieve the customer ID. So we're going to select customer ID from rental. And then we'll use a where clause to filter out everything that we don't want. And here's where we use the date function. So we just put date on, let's see, the rental date, and then equals that date that we wanted. What was it? Okay, 2005, July 5th, 2005. Okay. And so this will filter out, this will just let this date function is just going to let us hone in on the date information that's contained within this rental date column. And it'll hone in on, and it'll filter out anything that's not equivalent to this. So identify everything that's equivalent to this. So let's go ahead and run that. And then you should have gotten the result that looked something like this. All right. You could also, I believe that the actual question in here was that we wanted to retrieve a single row. So you could use this distinct clause. It looks like I don't think anything here is actually repeated anyway, but so it may not be totally necessary, but if you wanted to run it again, you could use the distinct clause to get that specific answer that the exercises we're asking for. All right, so the second part that people seem to have a bit of trouble with, and once again, this is something really simple too, and I just want to make sure everybody understands it before we move forward, was with question 4, and it was really with this last part of the question, but let's go ahead and work through the whole thing. So it's asking us, it's saying, it's giving us this query, okay? And it wants us to return something that looks like this, all right? So to make this easy on myself, I'm just going to copy paste this over into Workbench. Okay, this was, just got to get rid of these arrows here because it was originally done in the command line. Okay. All right, so the first part of it here most of you guys knocked out of the park, so that was no problem. So what we're wanting to do is, we've noticed here that we've got c.email and r.return date. That means that we have created aliases for these tables that we're pulling from. Okay, so customer C, we have that alias here. Interjoin with rental, with table rental, and this is the first place that we're supposed to fill in. So we see that here that we've alias the rental table as R, so that tells us that we are going to replace that with R. Okay, so and then we need to tell tell it where to actually create the join. So we're joining c.customer ID. So we have a mutual column called customer ID actually in both tables. And so we're going to join c.customer ID to r.customer ID. Okay. And then where the date, it's basically the same thing we just did in that same query, except with a different date. And then order by, okay. So it gives us two options here. Some of you provided two, some of you only provided one, and I was fine with either one. The main point is that we just need to get this result here. So you notice that everything is organized by the email, okay? Which is in fact, if you look up here, that's the first column that's referenced in the select statement. So that's actually why it's showing up first, is because it's the one that you put first, okay? So you just need to make sure that in order to get it organized this way, you're referencing either email, okay, or you could also say order by one. So we're going to put order by c.email, or we could say order by one. All right. This one is the best of what I can tell. This is actually not ordered, and there's no repeating. I don't think there's any repeating names in here. So there's not really any point, I don't think, in ordering by the second column, but you can do it anyway. And they kind of left it, whoever wrote this left it kind of ambiguous. So you could put another one in there. And some of you did and some of you didn't, and it didn't matter to me either way. But the main thing was that some of you had actually ordered by, I believe, the return date, or maybe you'd ordered by something else, or you maybe done a descending order instead of an ascending. So let's go ahead and take a look at what is going to give us this result here. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this by c.email, and let's see what we get here. All right, so it looks like to me we are getting the exact same results, okay, as what's in the, yeah. So that worked. So that's one way to do it. You could also just do order by one. So essentially you're telling it to order by the first column here, okay, which in this case is email. You've designated that as the first column in this query. So I believe you're getting the same thing there. You should be anyway. Like I said, you could also, if you want to also order by return date, let's say that you had more than one email for the same person, there might be some reason to order by the second column as well. And so what that would do is it order everything by the first column, but then if there were repeating values here, then it would order those by the timestamp here. So you could say order by 1, 2. And there shouldn't really be any difference in what you're getting there. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's I think that everybody was getting at it, just got a lot of information thrown at you at the same time. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was fully on board with this. It's a lot of this stuff, honestly, you just kind of have to memorize it. It's not necessarily that there's incredible logic to everything in SQL. SQL's pretty logical, and it is designed to mimic human speech, but some of this stuff you just kind of have to commit to memory and do it over and over again. Thanks. Ping me if you need anything, and talk to you soon.